The evening sky burned orange as the sound of engines faded outside the small grocery store. The air was thick with dust and tension. Just as the bikes went silent, a tiny voice broke through the noise. "He hit my grandma." A boy, no older than 7, stood trembling by the doorway, his shirt torn, cheeks stained with tears. His voice cracked like it had been trapped inside for too long. Every head turned toward him. Even the toughest men among the bikers froze mid-step. The tallest one, a man named Clay, stepped forward, his shadow stretching long across the pavement. "What did you say, kid?" he asked, his voice steady but low. The boy looked up, eyes red and desperate. "He hit her, my grandma. She's hurt. He's inside that house." He pointed across the street toward a small, dimly lit house with a broken window and a door hanging half open. The silence after that was heavy, the kind that made your chest feel tight. Clay's jaw clenched. Behind him, the other bikers exchanged glances. They had seen violence, but something about the way the boy shook made this different. It wasn't about revenge. It was about fear, pure, helpless fear. Without another word, Clay pulled off his leather gloves and crouched beside the boy. "What's your name, son?" "Liam," the boy whispered. "And your grandma?" "Mary." She tried to stop him. Clay stood up slowly, looking toward the flickering light of the house. A figure moved inside, a shadow pacing near the window. Clay felt a cold knot twist in his gut. He turned to his men. "Nobody touches the old lady. We go and clean. No noise unless I say so." Engine stayed off this time. Boots crunched softly over gravel as they crossed the street. Every step built tension, every heartbeat louder than the last. The front door creaked open with a push. Inside, the smell of spilled liquor hit first. Then came the sound, a weak groan from the living room floor. Clay moved fast, his eyes catching the old woman lying by the table, her hand clutching her ribs. But before he could kneel beside her, a voice came from the kitchen, rough, slurred, and angry. "Who the hell are you?" Clay didn't answer. His men fanned out, and the air felt like it could crack any second. The boy stood frozen at the door, watching the men who once looked like trouble now standing between him and the nightmare inside. Clay took one step toward the kitchen, eyes locked on the shadow moving behind the counter. "You hit her," he said quietly. There was no roar, no shout, just a calm that felt more dangerous than anger. The man stepped out, big, red-eyed, holding a half-empty bottle. "Old woman should have learned to keep quiet," he spat. The next few seconds hung in the air, sharp, fragile, ready to break. Clay didn't move for a second. The bottle hit the floor and rolled, the sound sharp in the silence. The drunk man grinned, thinking he had scared them, but the look in Clay's eyes said something else. It wasn't rage, it was control, cold and precise. Clay stepped closer until only a table separated them. "You hit her again?" he asked. The man hesitated, then laughed. "She's old. She'll live." Before he could take another breath, Clay's hand slammed the table aside. It hit the wall with a crack that made the man jump. Clay didn't throw a punch. He didn't have to. He leaned in, voice low but shaking with something dangerous. "You touch her again, and you'll never raise that hand at anyone." Behind Clay, one of the bikers helped the old woman up. She looked at him with dazed eyes, whispering, "Please don't hurt him. He's my son." That stopped everyone cold. The air changed. The man froze mid-step, and even Clay went still for a moment. The boy, Liam, blinked in confusion. "Grandma, he..." But she shook her head weakly. "He wasn't always like this. He came for money. He just lost himself." Clay looked at her, then at the man who stood there shaking, not from anger, but from guilt creeping in. The gang's silence was heavy, but it wasn't the same anymore. Something deeper was happening. Clay took a slow breath, turned to the man, and said, "You got one chance. Leave. Right now. Don't ever come back here drunk. Don't make her cry again." The man opened his mouth to argue but saw the others behind Clay. 6 men standing like a wall, their faces unreadable. He grabbed his jacket and stumbled out, slamming the door. The old woman tried to speak, but Clay gently stopped her. "You're safe now," he said softly. "We'll stay until you can rest." Liam clung to his grandma's arm, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, he wasn't crying from fear. He looked up at Clay, whispering, "Thank you." Clay only nodded, but in his eyes was something unspoken, something heavy and personal. As the bikers stepped outside into the night air, one of them muttered, "You think he'll stay gone?" Clay didn't answer. He was looking at the end of the street, where the drunk man had disappeared into the dark. Somewhere deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Something in the way that man looked back before leaving, it wasn't fear. It was hate. And Clay had seen that kind of hate before. It never walked away quietly. Rain began to fall, light at first, tapping softly against the chrome of the bikes. Clay stood by the curb, water running down his face, but he didn't move. His gut told him the night wasn't done. The others were ready to leave. But then Liam came running out, barefoot, shouting. He came back. Every biker froze. Clay turned fast. The boy pointed toward the alley behind the house. A dim light flickered there. Clay's boots splashed through puddles as he ran, the rest following close behind. The alley smelled of wet trash and gasoline. A shadow moved near the shed. Then came the sound, metal scraping on concrete. Clay raised his hand. Everyone stopped. Another sound, footsteps, slow, dragging. Then, from behind the shed, the same man stumbled into view, his face twisted with anger, a broken bottle in one hand, blood running from the other. "You think you can tell me to leave my own house?" he shouted, voice cracking through the rain. The boy gasped, clutching Clay's arm. Clay stepped forward, his voice calm but edged with steel. "You're drunk. Walk away." But the man laughed, the kind of laugh that made your skin crawl. "You don't get it," he said, eyes darting between them. "You walk away, or this ends bad for everyone." Clay could see it. The bottle, the shaking hand, the wild eyes. The man wasn't just angry. He was broken. "Put it down," Clay said, voice low. "You got a choice right now. Walk away or lose everything." For a moment, the man hesitated. Then he turned the bottle toward himself, gripping it like a weapon. Clay moved fast, quicker than anyone thought possible. The bottle shattered against the wall. The man pinned against the shed before he could blink. The rain fell harder, thunder rolling somewhere far off. "You think this is strength?" Clay said, holding him by the collar. "You hit the one person who still believes you can change." The man's eyes flickered. Fear, shame, something else. The fight drained out of him. He sagged to the ground, breathing heavy. Clay stepped back, letting him go. The others stayed quiet. Liam was shaking, but his grandma had come outside, leaning on the doorframe. She looked at her son sitting there in the mud, crying for the first time, and whispered, "It's time to come home, Mark." No one said anything after that. The rain kept falling, washing away the smell of anger and alcohol, leaving only silence. Clay looked at the boy, then at the woman, and nodded once. "You're safe now," he said again, and this time he believed it. As the bikers turned to leave, the woman called out softly, "You didn't even ask who we were." Clay smiled faintly over his shoulder. "Didn't need to," he said. "We heard enough." But as they rode off, the sound of engines echoing in the rain, Clay couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about one night. Something in that man's eyes, that hate mixed with shame, felt like a storm that hadn't passed yet. And somewhere deep inside, Clay knew the storm was coming back. Morning came slow and gray. The streets were quiet again, as if the night before had been a bad dream. Clay sat outside the small diner across from the same grocery store where it all began, a half-finished coffee cooling beside him. The others were inside, laughing low, trying to shake off the heaviness that still clung to their voices. But Clay couldn't. His eyes stayed fixed on the street, on that same small house with the faded curtains. Then, a movement. The door opened, and out stepped Liam, holding a brown paper bag. Behind him, his grandmother waved from the porch, a soft smile on her face. Clay raised a hand in return. For the first time, the boy smiled back. Not shy, not scared, just calm. It hit Clay harder than he expected. But something else caught his eye. Across the street, a police car rolled slowly to a stop outside the house. Two officers stepped out, talking quietly to the old woman. One of them motioned toward the backyard. Clay stood up, every muscle tensing again. A few minutes later, the officers let a man out in handcuffs, Mark. He didn't fight. He didn't shout. His eyes found Clay across the road and stayed there. For a moment, both men just looked at each other. No hate this time, no anger. Just something that looked almost like peace. Clay gave a small nod, and the man nodded back before ducking into the car. As it drove away, Liam ran over to Clay. "They said he'll get help," the boy said softly. "Grandma said you did the right thing." Clay knelt down, resting a hand on his shoulder. "No, kid," he said, smiling faintly. "You did. You asked for help when no one else would. That takes more guts than most grown men have. The boy grinned, small but real. He turned to leave, then stopped. Will you come back? He asked. Clay thought for a second. Maybe, he said. But you won't need us next time. You got her, and that's enough. As Liam ran back to his grandmother, the bikers started their engines. The sound rolled down the empty street. Not loud this time. Steady, strong, like a promise. Clay looked once more at the house, the window now fixed, the porch light still on. He slipped on his helmet, but before he kicked the bike to life, he said quietly to himself, "No one hurts the weak when we're around." The words weren't for anyone else, just a reminder of why they rode. As they disappeared down the highway, the sun finally broke through the clouds. The road shimmered ahead, endless and open, and for the first time in a long while, Clay felt light. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that strength isn't about fists or fear, but about standing up for what's right, share it. Someone out there might need to believe that kindness still rides through the streets. Because sometimes, real angels don't have wings. Sometimes, they ride Harleys.